Hey, Radiance here. Every app needs a pop-up dialog that is accessible, responsive, and aesthetically pleasing. However, we also want it to be convenient to use for us developers. In this video, I will share with you a minimalistic modal component which I utilize in my projects and which does not require any component libraries. You can find all of the source code in the ReactKit repository. Before starting the implementation, we need to consider the requirements and use cases of the component, as well as what props it should accept. First, every model requires a title, and often a subtitle as well. This would typically be strings, but for further customization, we'll designate them as React Node type. The component obviously needs to contain some content, so it should accept a children prop. The user must be able to close the model, thus necessitating an onClose callback. For title, children, and onClose props, I have reusable types because these props are used in various components in my projects. Models are typically centered on the screen. However, there are times when a series of models are utilized or the height of the content inside of the model may change. And to prevent a jumpy feel as users navigate between them, it may be preferable to position them at the top of the screen. The width prop allows customization of the modal width for content that needs more space than the default width. The final prop is the footer, which is kept as an extra property rather than just incorporating it as a children on account of the footer often containing buttons that should be positioned at the bottom of the screen, particularly when on mobile devices where the modal occupies the whole screen. Here's an example of how one might use the component to display a step in a series of onboarding modals. We'll position it at the top, provide a title, a subtitle as a React node for customization of part of the text, a footer with the continue button, and children with the content. You can notice that on mobile screen, the modal occupies the whole space. The header with title, subtitle, and close button remains at the top, the footer with the continue button at the bottom, and in case of overflow, the content can scroll without disrupting the layout, keeping both header and footer consistently visible. To manage the open-close state of the modal, I habitually rely on the abstract opener component. This is basically a wrapper around the useBoolean hook. This may be a matter of preference, but I find it more readable and comfortable than using the useState hook at the top of the component, followed by having the modal as a conditional render. Now let's delve into the modal implementation. First, we need to determine whether to display the modal as a pop-up or a full screen view. This is why we have a useIsScreenWidth hook. In the scenario where the modal width is 400 pixels and the screen width is 1000 pixels, we display the modal as a pop-up. However, if the screen width is 500 pixels, then the 50 pixels free space on either side of the modal would make it look strange. So we opt to display it as a full screen view. The useIsScreenWidth hook is a simple wrapper around the useMedia hook from the React Use library, which returns true or false depending on the media query. The toSizeUnit function is a helper function that converts any given number to a pixel string if the provided value is a number. To close the modal on an escape key press, we use the useK hook from the React Use library. We render the modal in the body element instead of being a child of the component that opens it, to avoid UI bugs due to parent position. The body portal is a wrapper around the useBody hook. In the useBody hook, we maintain a state for the body element and use the useIsomorphic layout effect hook to set the body value on the first render. To blur the rest of the screen when the modal is open, we utilize the complete mist component. It is a fixed element that occupies the entire space and centers content inside. We also use the backdrop filter to blur the content behind the modal. We pass on close to the complete mist on click to close the modal when the user clicks outside of the modal. In order to make the modal accessible and keep top focus within it, we use the focus trap component. It employs the focus trap React library, and while we could have used it directly in the modal without creating a dedicated focus trap component, I prefer to create a wrapper around it with a limited API, considering I might replace the library in the future. Next, we have the modal container component. It is a styled component that accepts an optional width parameter and placement prop. We make the container a flexbox element, and based on the presence of width, we either make it occupy the whole space or set a specific width. If the modal should be placed at the top, we set the top margin and align self to start to make it stick to the top of the screen. The component does not have padding, but all of its children will have 24 pixel padding. This ensures that if the content is scrollable, the scroll bar will appear at the edge of the modal and not 24 pixels from the edge. We also passed to the modal container an onClick handler that prevents the execution of the onClick event of the complete miss component, thereby preventing the modal from closing when the user clicks inside it. The stop propagation function is a helper that accepts an optional handler and returns another handler which stops the propagation of the event and calls the handler if provided. The first child inside of the container is the header, which displays the title and the close button in the first row and the subtitle in the second row, if it's provided. Both the modal title text and modal subtitle text are text wrappers with style customization. We render them as div elements so that any content can be passed to them. The modal close button is built upon the hoverable component to add a hover effect that goes beyond the borders of the element, ensuring the close icon aligns with the content. We achieve this effect in the hoverable component by making the highlight component absolute. We make the modal content component occupy all available space and set overflow Y to make it scrollable in case of overflow. That's all. If you found this modal breakdown useful, please like and subscribe. Become an effective 10x programmer with my productivity app at increaser.org.